Ever had a stranger in golf shoes try to snatch your ribs right off the smoker? Yeah, that was my Sunday. The morning started like a dream. Blue skies, the backyard smelling like mesquite and slow-cooked ribs, music humming softly, kids squealing with laughter, and neighbors lounging with plates piled high. It was my annual summer BBQ, a tradition I'd run for 5 years with zero complaints. Until this year, Karen, the freshly elected HOA president, tight-lipped, clipboard in hand, strutting around like she owned the neighborhood. She moved in just 6 months ago, and apparently took it as her personal mission to eradicate anything resembling fun. Lawn chairs on porches? Violation. Sidewalk chalk? Graffiti. A dad trying to host a BBQ for his community? Apparently. Domestic terrorism. I'd sent invites a week ahead, kept the music at reasonable levels, and even parked cars carefully so no driveways were blocked. None of it mattered. About an hour into the party, I spotted her on the sidewalk, arms crossed, glaring at my smoker like she could ignite it with her stare. I tried neighborly diplomacy. A plate of ribs offered, but she snapped. You'll regret this. I didn't think much of it, until 3 strangers showed up, wearing khaki shorts, laminated HOA badges, and smug expressions as they'd just been knighted in some secret club. One of them barked, "This is an unauthorized assembly." Another added, "You're in violation of HOA Article 5, subsection B." I blinked. Pretty sure Article 5 covers basketball hoops, not backyard BBQs. But they weren't interested in chatting. One reached for my speaker cord. Another lunged for the smoker handle like it was theirs. My cousin Marcus stepped in, and it nearly exploded into a fight right there on my lawn. Karen strutted in behind them, perfectly pleased with herself, announcing, "As president, I'm enforcing immediate shutdown. Or should I call the authorities?" That's when I smiled. "Oh, please do." Because Karen had no idea. I'd already called the cops 10 minutes earlier when I saw those goons approaching my gate. Every angle was covered on camera, doorbell cam, backyard cam, in audio. She had no clue what was coming. When the first squad car rolled up, the air shifted, not with rib smoke, but tension radiating off Karen's crisp blouse. Officer Ramirez stepped out, calm and composed, sunglasses reflecting the sunlight. "We got a call about a potential disturbance," he said. Karen immediately waved her clipboard. "Yes, officer. I'm the HOA president. This man," she jabbed a finger at me like I'd lit the neighborhood on fire, "is holding an unauthorized event. Loud music, smoke, unregistered guests." Ramirez raised a brow. "Unregistered guests?" Karen huffed. "Per HOA policy, all gatherings of 8 people must be submitted for approval. He's ignoring procedure and grilling meat in an open smoker. Code violation." I spoke up. "Officer, we're fully compliant. No open flame. The smoker's electric. Music is under 65 decibels. I measured it myself. Traffic's unobstructed. All neighbors invited. And I called because these men," I pointed at the 3 khaki-clad intruders, "trespassed and tried to damage my property." Ramirez's eyes narrowed. "Is that true?" Marcus stepped forward, arms crossed, face stone cold. "We've got it on camera." I pulled out my phone first. The doorbell cam showing them walking up uninvited. Then the backyard footage, crystal clear, reaching for the speakers. The smoker, one even knocking over a tray of corn. Karen's voice could be heard in the background, yelling about enforcement actions. Officer Ramirez pressed his lips together, holding back a smirk, then turned to the intruders. "Names?" One stammered. We were with the HOA, authorized by the president." Ramirez nodded slowly. "Do you realize HOA rules aren't law? You have no right to enter private property without consent." Karen barked. "That's incorrect. I have a clause right here, section 3, line 7, ma'am." Ramirez cut her off. "You can quote bylaws all day. Doesn't give you or anyone you deputize the right to trespass. And from this footage, it looks like attempted vandalism. That's a criminal offense." Karen's face turned the color of a ripe tomato. "You must be joking." Ramirez chuckled softly. "No, ma'am. But your friends might be in a lot more trouble than you realize." The energy shifted immediately. Guests went quiet, glancing nervously at one another. Karen's little task force started edging back. One of them even asked timidly if he could leave. Ramirez shook his head. Stay put. Karen tried a new approach, puffing up her chest. You don't understand, officer. This is about community safety. Ramirez muttered under his breath. What she did next to avoid getting cited was so absurd that even the second officer couldn't keep a straight face. Cornered and fuming, Karen did what Karens do best. She doubled down. As Officer Ramirez kept the cocky squad on standby, a second cruiser rolled up. Officer Delgado stepped out, young, sharp, confident. Ramirez gave him a quick rundown. Delgado glanced at Karen with raised eyebrows, then turned to me. Mind if I take a look around, sir? Be my guest, I said, gesturing toward the backyard. Delgado strolled past the smoker, still billowing that heavenly rib smoke, nodded at the music setup, and checked the grill station. Smells incredible, he murmured, smiling at a kid chasing bubbles. When he returned, he gave Ramirez a thumbs up. Looks like a perfectly lawful cookout to me. No violations that I can see. That's when Karen lost it. This is a setup, she shrieked, her voice cracking. He planned this to embarrass the HOA. That camera footage was staged. Ramirez blinked. You really think he hired actors to fake a backyard BBQ? Karen pressed on. Yes. And I think he's bribing people. Look at how friendly everyone is with him. It's unnatural. The silent crowd erupted in laughter. Even Marcus cracked a smile. One neighbor called out, yeah, he bribed me with ribs. Delgado couldn't hold it either. He laughed out loud. Ma'am, Ramirez said, regaining his composure, do you have any evidence to support these claims? Karen waved her clipboard like a sword. I have reports, logs. He's been disruptive before. Delgado raised a brow. You mean last month, when he hosted a charity lemonade stand with his daughter? Karen sputtered. That was unauthorized vending. Ramirez shook his head. Enough. You brought 3 unauthorized individuals onto private property, tried to shut down a lawful gathering, and now you're making wild accusations with no proof. Karen's voice shrank. I was protecting community standards. And now, Ramirez continued, we're filing a formal incident report. You and your friends will provide statements, and I strongly suggest you never trespass again. Karen froze. Her fake deputies suddenly seemed very interested in their shoes. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Then Karen said the unthinkable. Well, if this is how you treat community leaders, maybe also the whole precinct. Delgado snorted. Good luck with that, ma'am. Ramirez sighed. Ma'am, I strongly suggest you step away from the property now. You'd think she'd finally give up. But no, Karen had one last desperate, ridiculous move. She stomped to the center of my backyard as she owned it. If the authorities won't enforce the rules, I'll file a citizen's citation. This entire barbecue is null and void under emergency HOA authority. Even the birds went silent. One of her deputies whispered, Karen, maybe we should just leave. But Karen wasn't done. She pulled out her phone and pointed it at my guests. I'm documenting every face here. You're all complicit in a code violation. Marcus took a slow step forward. Lady, you record my family again, and you'll find yourself in a different kind of heat. Delgado stepped in. Ma'am, that's enough. Turn off the phone and leave the property immediately. Karen looked like she might combust. This is tyranny. HOA rules are being ignored. Community standards are collapsing. Ramirez approached calmly. Ma'am, you're on private property. You've already trespassed, attempted to damage property, and caused a public disturbance. I'd hate to escalate this further. Karen froze. Then, in a final, desperate Hail Mary, she pulled out a folded piece of paper and handed it to Ramirez. This is a formal cease and desist. If you don't shut this down, you're complicit in illegal liability. Delgado took the paper, glanced at it, and burst out laughing. He showed it to Ramirez and the rest of us. It wasn't legal. It was a typed page titled Emergency HOA Order 1, Backyard BBQ Shutdown Notice, signed in a scribbled Sharpie by President Karen. Ramirez handed it back silently. Karen clutched it like a golden ticket, but the mood had completely shifted. Everyone was laughing, even my 70-year-old neighbor, Dolores. nearly spit out her sweet tea. Ramirez gave her one final warning. "Ma'am, this is your last chance. Leave, or we'll charge you with disorderly conduct." Finally, she retreated, muttering about lawsuits and fake cops. Her little task force trailed behind, disappearing around the corner. Marcus raised a toast. To ribs, respect, and real authority. The crowd cheered. The officers stayed for a plate of brisket. We ended the night under string lights, full bellies, and happy hearts. The footage later went viral on the neighborhood Facebook page. Karen hasn't been seen since. Because when you send goons to wreck a BBQ, and the cops laugh at your fake authority, that's a story no HOA handbook can prepare you for. If you enjoyed watching HOA Karen get grilled harder than the burgers, make sure to hit like, drop a comment with your wildest neighborhood story, and subscribe for more unbelievable real-life showdowns. Trust me, this HOA drama is just getting started.